This is Muhammad Sadiq, and we are starting a new lecture series on school physics, and we will be discussing here 11th and 12th standard physics according to the syllabus prescribed by the CBSE. And sometimes we will be going a little beyond the CBSE prescribed syllabus, as there are variations among different state boards and the CBSE syllabi. So now let's begin. The first thing in physics that we encounter is called a physical quantity. Physical quantity. Now, what is a physical quantity? Physical quantity is something that can be measured, जिसको हम measure कर सकते हैं, जिसके लिए हम कुछ set of numbers and unit decide कर सकते हैं. That is called a physical quantity. For example, mass, time, length, speed, velocity, acceleration, force, and etc. etc. Then the physical quantity has two parts. One, the expression, the reporting of physical quantity, and the other is measurement of physical quantity. एक चीज होती है फिजिकल क्वांटिटी को रिपोर्ट करना, और दूसरी चीज होती है फिजिकल क्वांटिटी का मेजरमेंट कैसे किया जाएगा, कैसे हम डिसाइड करेंगे कि व्हाट वुड बी द यूनिट ऑफ मास एंड व्हाट वुड बी द यूनिट ऑफ टाइम और लेंथ एंड सो ऑन. Let us deal the first thing first. How to report a physical quantity. Let us discuss a physical quantity, that is mass. Now mass को report करने के लिए, if I say 2 kilogram mass or 3 kilogram mass, that is a complete or sufficient information. 2 kilogram mass अगर हमने कहा, then जो amount of quantity है उसके बारे में कंप्लीट इंफॉर्मेशन मिल जाती है. सिमिलरली इफ आई से टाइम 2 मिनट और 5 seconds or 1 year or 2 months, then it is a complete information about time. And length, say if I say this, the length of this chalk is 5 or 6 centimeter, then that is a complete information. So these type of quantities can be described using just a number. For example, if I have a mass 2 kilogram, so mass को रिपोर्ट करने के लिए, मास की इंफॉर्मेशन देने के लिए सिर्फ एक नंबर एंड समथिंग दैट इज कॉल्ड यूनिट, ये सफिशिएंट है. 2 किलोग्राम इज द कंप्लीट इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट मास. सो मास की इंफॉर्मेशन सिर्फ नंबर और यूनिट से कंप्लीट हो जाती है. सिमिलरली अगर टाइम की बात करें, सो टाइम की इंफॉर्मेशन भी अगर हमने कहा 4 मिनट और 10 मिनट और 1 मंथ, दैट इज अ कंप्लीट इंफॉर्मेशन. सो वी हैव जस्ट अ नंबर, से 2 मंथ. So a number and something that is unit that makes the information about time complete. And similarly length 5 centimeter or 6 centimeter, that is a complete information. So a number and unit makes the information about certain quantities, mass, length and time complete. Now there are other quantities. For example, force. If I say कि एक ऑब्जेक्ट पर 2 न्यूटन फोर्स अप्लाई किया गया, देन आई डोंट थिंक इट्स अ कंप्लीट इंफॉर्मेशन. लेट अस सी हाउ. दिस इज अ फ्रिक्शनलेस सरफेस एंड अ ब्लॉक इज केप्ट ऑन द फ्रिक्शनलेस सरफेस, एंड इफ आई से 2 न्यूटन फोर्स हैज बीन अप्लाइड ऑन द ब्लॉक, इज इट अ कंप्लीट इंफॉर्मेशन? आर यू सेटिस्फाइड विद द इंफॉर्मेशन? डू यू थिंक दिस इज अ कंप्लीट इंफॉर्मेशन? Or do you think I should tell you something more with this 2 Newton? If you cannot think, let me help you. जब किसी ऑब्जेक्ट पर फोर्स लगाया जाता है तो वो ऑब्जेक्ट डिस्प्लेस होता है, मूव होता है. सो दिस इज द कॉन्सिक्वेंस ऑफ फोर्स. नाउ अगर हमें ये नहीं मालूम है कि फोर्स कौन सी डायरेक्शन में अप्लाई किया जा रहा है, देन हम ये प्रेडिक्ट नहीं कर सकते कि उसका डिस्प्लेसमेंट या मूवमेंट कौन सी डायरेक्शन में हो रहा है. So I must tell you the direction of force. Force इस ब्लॉक पर कौन सी डायरेक्शन में लग रहा है, ये भी हमें बताना चाहिए आपको. So when I say 2 Newton force is applied on the block on the right side, then this is a sort of complete information. This makes the direction along with the unit and number makes the information complete. Similarly, if I say a car is moving with a speed 50 km per hour, then is it a complete information? Or am I skipping something? If I say a car is moving with a speed 50 km per hour, then you would know just how fast the car is moving. कार कितनी तेज जा रही है, इससे सिर्फ इतनी बात की information पता चलती है. But you would also want to know कि कार कौन सी direction में जा रही है, isn't it? So I must tell you that a car is moving with a speed 50 km in certain direction. For example, north, south, or 30 degree from north, or 50 degree from south, or anything like that. So a car moving with a speed 50 km per hour in certain direction makes the information about the motion of car complete. So what have we developed? That there are certain quantities जिनकी information सिर्फ numbers और unit उससे complete हो जाती है. We call these numbers magnitude, the amount of the quantity. So there are certain class of quantities जिनकी information सिर्फ magnitude से complete हो जाती है with a unit. And there are certain other quantities जिनकी information magnitude, unit और उसके साथ साथ direction की भी ज़रूरत होती है. Without the information of direction, the information is incomplete. So these two quantities are different on the basis of reporting, on the basis of information. Now, the quantities जिसके लिए सिर्फ number और unit की ज़रूरत होती है, उसको हम कहते हैं scalars. Mass, length and time, these quantities are scalars. And the quantities which require direction, they are called vectors. So what is the definition of a vector quantity? As a quantity that needs a number, a unit and a direction. That is a vector quantity. So far, अभी तक का हमारा जो basic discussion है, उसके basis पर this is a temporary definition of a vector quantity. Magnitude, unit and direction. That makes a quantity vector quantity. And these quantities, scalars, just number or magnitude and unit. Now, how to deal with vector quantities? The treatment of scalars and vectors are different. Say, if I say 2 kilogram and 2 kilogram, say if you have certain amount of mass, that is 2 kilogram, and there are another 2 kilogram mass, then what would be the result? How much mass is there? That is very simple, 4 kilogram. 4 kilogram. 2 kilogram and 2 kilogram is always 4 kilogram without any condition, without any exception. And similarly, if I say 4 minutes plus 5 minutes, that is total 9 minutes without any condition. There is no exception that 4 minutes and 9 minutes will not be 4 minutes and 5 minutes will not be 9 minutes. It will always be 9 minutes. But what about the forces? Let us see. Say, I have a block on a frictionless surface and I have applied a force 2 Newton on the block and another 2 Newton in the same direction. 2 Newton and 2 Newton in same direction on the same block. Then what is the total force? Simple, 4 Newton. But if I apply the forces in different fashion, say 2 Newton on the right side and 2 Newton on the left side. Now what is total force? Will it be moving? The object will be moving. If it was initially at rest, then in this condition it will not be moving. So what is the resultant force here? 0 Newton. Now 2 Newton and 2 Newton is 4 Newton and 2 Newton and 2 Newton is also 0 Newton. But this is not the case with the scalars. Scalars 2 kilogram and 2 kilogram is always 4 kilogram, but in case of vectors 2 Newton and 2 Newton is not always 4 Newton. Now, so इससे क्या पता चला? Scalars का जो algebra है, scalars के साथ जो addition, subtraction, multiplication और division है, that is different from the vectors. वेक्टर्स के साथ जिस तरह से हम एडिशन सब्ट्रैक्शन करते हैं वो वैसा नहीं है जैसा स्केलर्स के साथ किया जाता है. Vectors follow different algebra, scalars follow different algebra. Scalars follow simple algebra, 2 plus 2 is always 4, 10 plus 10 is always 20 without any condition, without any exception. But in case of vectors, this is not the case always. So we have seen that vector quantities follow different algebra than scalars. So we will have to study what is that algebra. Now how to say, for example, if I say, and let us take another example, a block is there and 2 Newton force is applied on the right side and 2 Newton force is applied on the upward direction. Now what is the total force on the block? It will be a little difficult to calculate कि total resultant force कितना लग रहा है इस block पर. So we have to study about the algebra of vector quantities, how to add them, how to subtract them, and how to multiply them. So let's begin with the basics of vector analysis. So now let's see the basics of vector algebra. Now from the discussions so far, the definition of vector is a quantity that has magnitude and direction. That's a simple definition. At the end of the chapter we will again try to define the vector. जो चीज़ें हम डिस्कस करेंगे we will see कि उसके बेसिस पर वेक्टर की डेफिनेशन और sophisticated वे में कैसे दी जा सकती है. Now, so first thing in vectors is the representation of a vector. How to represent a vector? A vector is represented with the help of an arrow. एक arrow की help से हम हमेशा vector को represent करेंगे. So say this is a vector. The length of the arrow will be the magnitude of the vector and this arrowhead will give the direction of the vector. इसकी जो length है that is magnitude and this arrowhead will give you the direction. Now, so a vector has two things, magnitude and direction. And इसमें से अगर कोई सी भी चीज चेंज हो जाए, से इस वेक्टर की लेंथ हमने चेंज किया, that means मैग्नीट्यूड चेंज हुआ, वेक्टर चेंज हो जाएगा. एंड अगर हमने वेक्टर को रोटेट कर दिया, देन उसकी डायरेक्शन चेंज हो जाएगी. सो एनी ऑफ द टू, लेंथ of this arrow or the arrowhead, that means the direction of the vector, अगर वो change हो जाए तो vector change हो जाएगा. And अगर इस vector को flip कर दिया जाए, 180 डिग्री flip कर दिया, say now vector का notation क्या होगा? अगर A से vector को हम represent कर रहे हैं, so उसके ऊपर एक arrow लगाते हैं that indicates that A is a vector quantity. And sometimes book में लेटर ए को बोल्ड करके लिख दिया जाता है, बट आई विल फॉलो दिस नोटेशन, अ लेटर विथ एन एरो अबव इट, दैट विल बी अ वेक्टर. नाउ इफ आई फ्लिप द एरो 180 डिग्री, देन दिस इज माइनस ए. द रिवर्स ऑफ दिस वेक्टर विल बी माइनस ए. एंड से सो इस प्लेन में अगर हमें वेक्टर शो करना है, आई विल ड्रॉ एन एरो. लेकिन अगर वेक्टर बोर्ड से बाहर आ रहा है, बोर्ड के आउट ऑफ द बोर्ड या इनटू द बोर्ड की डायरेक्शन दिखानी हो, सो उसके लिए हम यूज करेंगे, से इफ द एरो इज कमिंग टुवर्ड्स यू, देन व्हाट वुड यू सी? यू विल सी द टिप ऑफ द एरो. सो इन अ सर्किल अ डॉट विल इंडिकेट आउटवर्ड डायरेक्शन. सो दिस इज आउट ऑफ द बोर्ड, आउट ऑफ द बोर्ड or paper or plane. And if the arrow is going away from you, then you will see the back of the arrow, and that is a cross. So circle में एक cross is into the board or into the plane or paper. So this is out of the board, this is into the board, and any direction in the plane of board can be represented with the help of an arrow. So this is the representation of a vector. Length is magnitude, arrowhead will give you the direction, and इन दोनों में से कुछ भी चेंज हो जाए, लेंथ चेंज हुई देन वेक्टर चेंज हो गया, एंड डायरेक्शन चेंज हुई तब भी वेक्टर चेंज हो गया. नाउ अगर हमें इस वेक्टर को बोर्ड के प्लेन पर डिस्प्लेस कराना हो, then a vector is always displaced parallel to itself. The rotation of vector is not allowed. अगर vector constant है, then I can draw any arrow parallel to this arrow that will be the same vector. So for delocating, you can delocate the vector anywhere on the plane, but you cannot rotate the vector. So rotation is not allowed. If you want to note anything from the blackboard, you can pause the video and note down anything that is required to you. Now, two vectors in the same direction and of equal length. Say this is a vector A, and there is another vector in the same direction and of equal length B. These two vectors are equal. दोनों की length same है, दोनों same direction में है. Then these two vectors are equal vectors. We can write A is equal to B. And if I just want to write the magnitude, अगर सिर्फ उसका magnitude लिखना है, so उसके लिए हम दो vertical lines में vector को लिखते हैं. This is called modulus or magnitude, or simply we call it mod. So mod A is only the length, that is the magnitude. And casually we can write sometimes letter A without the arrowhead. If there is no arrow, that means it is the magnitude of the vector. Then there is a vector called null vector or zero vector. Say if you have a vector A and उसमें minus A add कर दिया, then what is the resultant? That is zero vector or null vector. So the magnitude of a null vector is 0. The length will be 0. I cannot show you any length on the board. And what about the direction of a null vector? It can have any direction. If there is no length, then there is no point to indicate the direction. So a null vector can have any direction. A null vector, 0 magnitude and any direction. Next is, so this is the representation and some points related with the presentation of the vector. Now the next thing is addition, how to add two vectors. So addition of vectors. We use two methods for adding two vectors. One of them is triangle rule. And the other is called Parallelogram Law. Now let us first see what is a triangle rule. Say we have two vectors. This is vector A and there is another vector B somewhere in this plane, and I want to add these two vectors. Now how to do this? What is the triangle rule? So the triangle rule says कि पहले वेक्टर की हेड पर दूसरे वेक्टर की टेल्स ज्वाइन करो. से वी हैव दिस वेक्टर A एंड रिमेंबर इस वेक्टर को अगर हमें डीलोकेट करना है प्लेन पर, देन द वेक्टर मस्ट नॉट बी चेंज्ड. उसकी ना डायरेक्शन चेंज हो ना लेंथ चेंज हो. सो यू कैन डिस्प्लेस द वेक्टर पैरेलल टू इटसेल्फ. दिस इज वेक्टर B. So join the length, the tail of the second vector with the head of the first vector. Then this is the direction, say this is vector A. This is the direction of vector A and this is the direction of vector B. So this angle, let's call it theta. The angle theta is the angle between the two vectors. You can also find this angle by joining the tails of the two vectors. If I draw this vector here, this is also vector B, and so here we have joined the tails of the two vectors, then this angle is also theta, the angle between the two vectors. So to find the angle between the two vectors, you can either see the direction of A and direction of B, and angle between them is the angle between the vectors, or you can join the tails of the two vectors, then the angle between the tails is the angle between the vectors. Now, what is the triangle rule? So, any of the vectors, say this is vector A and this is vector B. B की tail को हमने A की head से join किया, and then initial tail को final head से join करो. You have to join the initial tail with the final head, with the head of the B. This is called resultant vector, A plus B. So this is how we will find the resultant vector. Now, if I join it the other way, say I have vector A and the vector B parallel to itself. Remember, this is vector B. So here I have joined the tail of A to the head of B. Then this is also true. This will give you also. This will also give you the same result. This is resultant vector A plus B. So either A plus B or B plus A, that means the addition of vector is commutative. A plus B will be equal to B plus A. This is what the triangle rule. And how to find the direction? A की direction, B की direction, उसके बीच में angle, या फिर दोनों की tails join कर दो. That is the angle between the vectors. And this angle here, let's call it alpha. This is the angle between the resultant vector and vector A. And here, if I extend the vector R and the vector B, so this is the direction of R and this is the direction of B, and let's call this angle beta. Then the beta is the angle between R and B, and this will also be the same vector. This will also be the same angle, the opposite angle. So this is also the angle between the resultant and vector B. So this is triangle rule. This is how we can add two vectors. Next is the parallelogram law. Let's remove it. The parallelogram law. The parallelogram law. Again, say we have two vectors, vector A and vector B. In parallelogram, we join the tails of the two vectors. दोनों की tails join करेंगे. So let's join the tails. Vector A and parallel to itself vector B. I have joined the tails of the two vectors, so this is the angle theta between the two vectors A and B. Now using these two sides, complete the parallelogram. Draw a line parallel to A and a line parallel to B. So you have just completed the parallelogram. And parallelogram में दो diagonals होते हैं, एक ये वाला diagonal और एक ये वाला diagonal. The diagonal which is passing between A and B, not exactly midway, but between A and B, that diagonal here is the resultant vector, or resultant A plus B. So what is the parallelogram law? दोनों vectors की tails join करो and दोनों के parallel line draw करके एक parallelogram complete करो, and then the diagonal that is passing between A and B, between मतलब not exactly midway, ये इस angle को bisect नहीं कर रहा है, it will be somewhere between A and B. That diagonal is the resultant A plus B. The other diagonal, this diagonal, we will see what is that diagonal. So this is parallelogram. Now here we can see the angle. This is this angle, say alpha. This is the angle between the resultant and the vector A. And this angle, let's call it beta. This is the angle between B and the resultant vector. So this is parallelogram law. इसमें दोनों की टेल्स ज्वाइन करते हैं एंड ट्राइंगल रूल में पहले वेक्टर की हेड पर दूसरे की टेल ज्वाइन करते हैं एंड देन यू कंप्लीट द ट्राइंगल. Now, so this was the addition of two vectors a and b. What if we have more than two vectors? दो से ज्यादा वेक्टर्स अगर हमारे पास हों. For that we have polygon rule. Let us see what is polygon rule. Polygon rule. Say we have a number of vectors, vector A, vector B, vector C, and another vector D, and another vector E. We have 5 vectors here, and we have to add all of them. Now the polygon rule says, the polygon rule is nothing new, it is just the extension of triangle rule. Polygon rule says vector A, उसकी हेड से दूसरा वेक्टर से B, उसकी टेल ज्वाइन करो. So this is B, and then इसकी हेड पर नेक्स्ट वेक्टर की टेल ज्वाइन करो, that is C. So this is C. Draw all the vectors parallel to themselves. This vector is C, and then उसका अगला वेक्टर उसकी हेड से ज्वाइन करो, C की हेड से नेक्स्ट वेक्टर, that is vector D, and the last vector E. So join the tail of E with the head of B. So I have done nothing new. This is just the extension of triangle rule. Triangle rule में हमने एक वेक्टर की हेड से दूसरे वेक्टर की टेल ज्वाइन की थी. यहाँ पर दो से ज्यादा वेक्टर्स हैं, so पहले वेक्टर की हेड पर दूसरे की टेल, दूसरे की हेड पर तीसरे की टेल, एंड तीसरे के हेड पर नेक्स्ट वेक्टर की टेल, और उसके हेड पर उसके नेक्स्ट वेक्टर की टेल. दिस इज वेक्टर E. देन इनिशियल टेल को फाइनल हेड से ज्वाइन करो. दिस इज द रिजल्टेंट वेक्टर. This is vector R, and R is equal to A plus B plus C plus D and plus E. So this is the polygon rule. Say if you have number of displacements and you have to add all of them, then just keep on going from head to tail, and then so on. And then initial tail को final head से join करो, that will give you the resultant of all the vectors. So this is polygon method to find the resultant of more than two vectors. Now, so far we have seen the addition of vectors, and this addition was based on the geometry. This is geometrical method to add vectors. Now, this will be sometimes cumbersome to add the vectors, drawing lines and finding the angles. So let us derive a mathematical formula to add vectors. Now let's try to find a mathematical formula for the addition of vectors. So let us take the example of our triangle rule. I have vector A, and उसकी हेड से हमने B की टेल ज्वाइन की थी. This is vector B, and this is the resultant vector R, which is equal to A plus B. This was the angle between A and B. Let's call this theta. And इस लाइन को थोड़ा आगे एक्सटेंड करो, एंड इस पर B की हेड से परपेंडिकुलर ड्रॉ करो. Okay. Now we have completed a right angle triangle. This line is perpendicular on this line. This angle is 90 degree. And let's give it a name. Say this is A, this is small b, small c, and small d. Now, let us first see in this smaller right angle triangle ABC. So, in triangle ABC, what will be sine theta? What is sine theta in a right angle triangle? Sine theta is equal to perpendicular upon hypotenuse. So, sine theta in ABC is perpendicular, that is BC upon hypotenuse. Now, hypotenuse is the length of vector B. So, if I have to write only the length, I can drop the arrow. So, just B, that is the length of this side. This is sine theta. Now, what is BC? BC is equal to B sine theta. And in the same triangle, what is cos theta? Cos theta is, in a right angle triangle, cos theta is base upon hypotenuse. So what is base here? This is CD upon the hypotenuse, that is length of vector B. So just write B without the arrow. Then what is CD? Cross multiply. CD is equal to B cos theta. So this side BC is B sin theta, and this side is B cos theta. Now, अब जो बड़ा वाला right angle triangle है ABC, let us apply Pythagoras theorem in right angle triangle ABC. Now, in right angle triangle ABC, using Pythagoras theorem, what can we write? What is Pythagoras theorem? The square of base this plus the square of perpendicular is equal to the square of hypotenuse. So I can write AB square is equal to AC square plus BC square. Yes? And now this AC can be broken into AD plus DC or CD. So I can write in place of AC AD plus DC whole square, and then we have BC square. Now what is AD? AD side kya hai? This is length of vector A, so I can write just A at the place of AD. And then what is DC or CD? This is B cos theta, so DC की जगह B cos theta whole square, and then plus BC. What is BC? That is B sin theta, so B sin theta whole square. And now expand it as per x plus y whole square is x square plus y square plus 2x into y. So this will be a square plus this square. So sorry, this was a square. So I can write it as b square cos square theta plus 2 times ab cos theta. 2 times ab cos theta. And यहाँ पर b square sin square theta. Now ये दोनों टर्म देखो यहाँ पर. Let us take these two terms. Let us take b square common. So a square plus b square, and this is cos square theta plus sin square theta plus 2ab cos theta. Now what is this? This is an identity in trigonometry. Sin square theta plus cos square theta is 1. So this becomes a square plus b square into 1 plus 2ab cos theta. And this is equal to what is on the left side? AB. What is AB? The length of AB is the magnitude of the resultant. So I can write it like this, r square. So this is r square. Now what is r? R is equal to square root of a square plus b square plus 2ab cos theta. So you have got a formula to calculate the length of the resultant vector, the magnitude of the resultant vector. And remember here, this a square is the magnitude. जहाँ पर भी a, capital A and capital B हमने use किया है, वो सब क्या है? Length of the sides. that is magnitude. So this is magnitude of A, vector A, magnitude of vector B. This is also magnitude of A and B, and this angle is the angle between the two vectors. And this is the magnitude of the resultant vector. So this formula will give you only the magnitude of the resultant vector. Now, how to find the direction? What is the direction of this resultant vector? So for direction, I can tell you how much this angle is. If you can calculate this angle, then I can give you the direction of resultant vector. So I have to remove this part. Now again see, in triangle, the bigger triangle, ABC, in this triangle, if you want to calculate the angle, we will first calculate a trigonometric ratio. Let us calculate tan of this angle. So what will be tan alpha in this triangle ABC? Alpha ke samne ki side, this is perpendicular, and this side is base. So tan theta in a right angle triangle is perpendicular upon base. What is perpendicular here? That is BC upon base is AC. And I can break this AC into AD plus DC. And now what is BC? BC is B sine theta. B sine theta upon AD is the length of A, so just A, and DC is B cos theta, so B cos theta. This is what tan alpha. And if I have to write just alpha, the angle, then in trigonometry this is written as alpha will be equal to tan inverse, this is how it is written, in tan inverse of B sine theta upon A plus B cos theta. So this will give you the angle between the resultant and vector A, and this, if you know the angle, that will give you the direction of vector R. So with the help of this formula you can calculate the magnitude of the resultant vector, and with the help of this formula you can calculate the direction of the resultant vector. Now we can discuss certain cases. One more point. If I want to calculate the angle between the resultant and the vector B, you can calculate. Say, if you want to calculate the angle, so अभी हमने थोड़ी देर पहले show किया था, this is the angle between R and B. So if I want to calculate this angle, say this is beta, then you can do the constructions. उसके लिए जो constructions चाहिए, then you can do it. I leave it for your practice. You can do that. So if you want to write tan of this angle, then in this formula just interchange A and B. At the place of B write A, and at the place of A write B. So if you want to write tan beta or just beta, it will be tan inverse here A sine theta upon here B plus here A again, A cos theta. So this is angle beta. This is angle alpha and this is angle beta. Now I can point you one point here. Say this is the angle between the resultant and A, and this is the angle between the resultant and B. So जिस वेक्टर के साथ एंगल हम लिख रहे हैं वो वेक्टर यहाँ पर अपीयर हो रहा है, उसकी लेंथ यहाँ पर अपीयर हो रही है. So by looking at this, you can tell कि वेक्टर R की डायरेक्शन किसके साथ, वेक्टर R का एंगल किसके साथ लिया गया है. If it is B here, then this is the angle between the resultant and B, and if it is A here, then this is the angle between the resultant and vector A. So this is how to calculate mathematically how to find the magnitude of the resultant vector and the direction of the resultant vector. You may take it down. Now let's move on. We can discuss some special cases about this formula. These cases are very important. So let's write down again what is r. R is equal to square root of a square plus b square plus 2ab cos theta. So अभी हमने just derive किया resultant vector r. Now let us see some cases related with this formula. The first case is, what if this angle is 0 degree? Angle 0 degree का मतलब the two vectors are parallel. They are in same direction. Parallel vectors. Now here the angle is 0 degree. Then if I put theta is equal to 0, cos 0 is 1. Then r is equal to square root of a square plus b square plus 2ab, and cos 0 is 1. So this is just a square plus b square plus 2ab, which you know a plus b whole square. I can write it as a plus b whole square, and under the square root then it will be just a plus b. So if the angle between the two vectors is 0 degree or the vectors are parallel, then the resultant is simply the magnitude, the addition of the magnitudes of two vectors. So शुरू में हमने एक example देखा था कि 2 Newton force and 2 Newton force एक ही direction में हो, then the net force is 4 Newton, which comes from this result. Okay. So if the vectors are parallel, the resultant is simply the addition of the vectors, the addition of the magnitudes of the vector. Next case, if the angle is 180 degree, that means the vectors are anti-parallel. They are anti-parallel. Then what is the resultant? Now if I put theta here, cos 180 is minus 1. Then r will be a square plus b square plus 2ab, and minus 1, so I can put the minus here. So minus 2ab, which you know is the whole square of a minus b. So this becomes square root of a minus b whole square, and under the square root, so this will become just a minus b. So if the vectors are anti-parallel, then the resultant is simply the subtraction of the magnitudes of the two vectors. So ये इस चीज़ को भी हमने डिस्कस किया था initially, 2 Newton force इस तरफ और 2 Newton force इस तरफ हो, then the net is 0, which is consistent from this discussion, from this case. Now what will be the direction in this case? See, इसमें से जो बड़ा वेक्टर होगा, बड़े मैग्नीट्यूड का, बड़ी लेंथ का, उसमें से छोटे वेक्टर को हम सब्ट्रैक्ट कर देंगे, एंड नेट जो रिजल्टेंट वेक्टर है उसकी डायरेक्शन बड़े वेक्टर की डायरेक्शन में होगी. The bigger vector will be the direction of the bigger vector will be direction of the resultant vector. Okay, the next case, what if this angle is 90 degree? So if I put 90 here, cos 90 becomes 0. So this part will vanish, and you will get r is equal to just under root a square plus b square. So if the vectors, 90 degree means the vectors are perpendicular. So if the vectors are perpendicular, then the resultant is just square root of a square plus b square. So these are some special cases. And one more point I can add here. See, this is the resultant that we can get maximum. So if there are two vectors, then the maximum resultant will be a plus b, and the minimum of the resultant will be a minus b. So the range of the resultant vector will be from a plus b to a minus b. If you have two vectors, then maximum that you can get will be a plus b, and the minimum that you will get will be a minus b. So the range of the resultant vector is from a plus b to a minus b. For example, we have two forces. One is 5 Newton and the other is 7 Newton. Then what is the maximum that we can get from these two forces? That will be 5 plus 7, that is 12. So maximum force from here will be 12 Newton, and minimum force that we can get from 5 and 7 will be 7 minus 5. Remember, इस वेक्टर में से इसको सब्ट्रैक्ट कर देंगे एंड इस वेक्टर की जो डायरेक्शन है दैट विल बी द डायरेक्शन ऑफ द नेट फोर्स, द रिजल्टेंट फोर्स. सो 7 minus 5 is 2 Newton. So 5 Newton and 7 Newton can make anything from 2 to 12. The resultant, the net force cannot be lower than, cannot be less than 2 Newton, and it cannot be more than 12 Newton. So the range of these the range of the net force will be from 2 to 12 Newton. So these are some cases. Next, the important one. So we can use these if you know the angle, if it is 0, 180 or 90, then we can use the direct results. If this is 0, then resultant is simply a plus b. If this is 180, the resultant is a minus b, and if the angle is 90, then resultant is a square plus b square under a square root. Now let us take one more possibility. What if we have two vectors of equal magnitudes? हमारे पास दो वेक्टर्स हैं, दोनों का मैग्नीट्यूड इक्वल है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ आई हैव अ वेक्टर ए, उसका मैग्नीट्यूड, और वेक्टर बी, उसका मैग्नीट्यूड, दोनों का मैग्नीट्यूड इक्वल है, एंड से द मैग्नीट्यूड इज पी. सो व्हाट विल बी द रिजल्टेंट ऑफ वेक्टर्स हैविंग इक्वल मैग्नीट्यूड्स? लेट्स राइट डाउन द फॉर्मूला. आर इज इक्वल टू स्क्वायर रूट ऑफ ए स्क्वायर plus b square plus 2ab cos theta. Then a can be written as p, so this is p square, and then b is also p, so this is again p square, and then 2 times a into b, a and b both are p, so 2 times p square and cos theta. Now I can this will become 2p square. So 2p square and 2p square cos theta. I can take p square common and it will come out of the square root and become just p. Then we have under the square root 2 and 2 cos theta. Then take 2 common. Then in the bracket you will have 1 plus cos theta. Okay. Now there is a formula in trigonometry. Cos 2 theta is equal to 2 cos square theta minus 1. What is the point here? यहाँ पर जो एंगल है इधर उसका हाफ है. If I write theta here, यहाँ पर theta by 2 होगा. If it is 4 theta, then this will be 2 theta. So if I write cos theta, then it will be 2 cos square theta by 2 minus 1. So at the place of cos theta, I can write 2 cos square theta by 2 minus 1. So let's write it here. P and square root of 2 into 1 plus. Now in place of cos theta, I can write 2 cos square theta by 2, 2 cos square theta by 2 minus 1. Then this plus and minus 1 cancel out. And what we have now, 2 into 2 is 4, and वो square root से बाहर आके क्या हो जाएगा? Just 2. And cos square theta by 2, this will also come out of the square root and will become, so the resultant, the magnitude of the resultant will be, let me write here, we have p and this 2 and 2, 4, and cos square theta by 2. Then 4 बाहर आके 2 p, and this is just cos theta by 2. So this is the resultant of two vectors having equal magnitudes. Now we can discuss some cases here also, and it will be used as shortcuts when we will be doing questions. So you can note it down. I'm removing. And let's write it here again. R is equal to 2p cos theta by 2. So the resultant of two vectors having equal magnitudes. Now what if this angle is 60 degree? Two vectors at 60 degree angle. Say we have a vector A and vector B of equal magnitude. So length of these two vectors are equal. And angle between them is 60 degree. Then put theta is equal to 60 degree. Here you will have R, 2, P and cos 60 by 2, that is 30. And how much is cos 30? That is root 3 by 2. So under root 3 upon 2. 2 and 2 cancel out. And you have just under root 3p. So the resultant of two vectors of equal magnitude inclined at an angle 60 degree will be just root 3 into p. Root 3 times p. Next case, what if this angle is 90 degree here? The angle is 90 degree. The two vectors of equal magnitude are perpendicular. Let me show you here. These two vectors of equal length are perpendicular. Then put 90 here, it will be just 45. So R is equal to 2p and cos 45. Now how much is cos 45? This is 1 upon root 2. So R is equal to 2p times 1 upon root 2. And here you know it can be written as root 2 into root 2. So 1 square root of 2 will be cancelled from here. So you will have just p times root 2. So resultant of two vectors of equal magnitude inclined at 90 degree or are perpendicular, then the resultant will be just p times root 2. Next, and this one is the most important of all the cases. Say the angle is now 120 degree. Then then put theta here, cos 120 upon 2 is 60. So resultant will be 2p and cos 60 degree. Now how much is cos 60 degree? That is 1 upon 2, half. So this is 1 upon 2 and 2 cancel. They get cancelled out and the resultant is just p. This is a remarkable case. Two vectors of equal magnitude inclined at an angle 120 degree, then their resultant is equal to the magnitude of either vectors. I can show you the case here geometrically. Let's remove it. I hope you have written it down. So two vectors of equal magnitude. So this is a vector and the other vector at 120 degree angle. 120 degree angle. These two vectors are equal. I guess the lengths are equal. Now I have joined the tails of the two vectors, so I can make a parallelogram parallel to this and then parallel to this. This is the parallelogram, and then the diagonal passing between the two vectors, say this is vector A and this is vector B, the diagonal, this diagonal is the resultant R. Resultant R. Now this angle is 120 degree, 120 degree there, and these two sides are equal. Then this is a parallelogram, so uske samne ki side bhi equal hogi. If this is B, then this is also B. The length of this side is B, and the length of this side and this side, these two are equal. And one more point, if the vectors are equal, then resultant bisects the angle between the two vectors. दो वेक्टर्स इक्वल मैग्नीट्यूड के हों, देन उसका जो रिजल्टेंट होगा वो उन दोनों के एंगल्स को बाइसेक्ट करेगा. सो दिस एंगल हियर, दिस एंगल, दिस इज 60 डिग्री. This angle is 60 degree. Now these two sides are equal, so this is an isosceles triangle, and इसके सामने के angles क्या होंगे? Equal. Then this is also 60 degree, and this is also 60 degree. So now this is this is a triangle जिसमें तीनों sides equal हैं. So this is if the length is p, then this is also p and this is also p, which I have shown here that the resultant is equal to the magnitude of either vectors. So these are some important cases. When you solve the questions, these cases become very handy. They serve as shortcuts. And you can draw some pattern. When the angle is 30 degree, resultant is under root 3p. When the angle is 90 degree, sorry, this is 60 degree, sorry. The angle is 60 degree, resultant is under root 3p. When the angle is 90 degree, resultant is under root 2p. And when the angle is 120 degree, resultant can be under root 1 times p. So under root 1 is 1, so r is equal to just p. So you can draw a pattern: 60 degree, root 3p, 90 degree, root 2p, and 120 degree. You can see यहाँ पर एंगल्स के बीच में 30-30 का डिफरेंस है. सो 60 रूट 3p, 90 रूट 2p, 120 just p. So these cases become very important. So this was basic introduction of vectors, and we have seen how the vectors are added. And in the next segment we will see how the vectors are subtracted and how they are multiplied. And if you want to give your input, any of your input, you can write in the comment section. And if you want to ask anything, you can email me. The address is provided in the description. And lastly, I want to thank all the people who were involved in the making of the video, and hope to see you again. Thank you.